can't talk about the United States Coast Guard without talking about, bam, these guys, rescue swimmers. I'm here with AST3, which is Aviation Survival Technician 3rd Class, William Arrison. William, thank you so much.
Matthew, thanks for having us.
Give me a little kind of overview of what a rescue swimmer does. I mean, everybody knows that you guys are in the helicopters and you they see you jumping out, but you do more than that.
For sure. So the rescue swimmer part is definitely a big part of it, and that's always what's televised and seen on rescues. But the more day-to-day stuff is if we're not on duty, the one performing the rescue, as a aviation survival technician, which you mentioned, is the upkeep, maintenance, inspect of all the survival gear, equipment, and all the rescue equipment that people see. So when that stuff needs to be used, it needs to work, you know. It's not, we don't just have a basket or litter kind of kicked in the corner for a while and then, no, we're going on a case like this should work. Everything's on a very strict maintenance cycle, so all this gear comes due in monthly cycles, 6-month cycles and whatnot. So our shop space here is used for the inspect and maintenance of that. So whether we're checking a basket out, we're load testing it up to 600 pounds, making sure it's good to go, it's gonna hold, there's no cracks in it. We're inflating the aircrew vests up, the rafts up, making sure obviously no holes in it. A 2-hour leak check will go on, make sure all the survival equipment and gear is good. And then that stuff can be packaged up, you know, put on the planes for a ready helicopter. So when that helicopter goes out with a crew, they know all their gear is good to go. And if they're out on a regular training flight, all of a sudden they get a call from the sector here saying, you know, 6014, we got a report of a vessel taken on water in this position. And then all of a sudden we're breaking off from our training, having a crew discussion, what's going on, and then heading out to that potential case.
That's really cool. So how do you guys integrate into the air crew?
So our air crew billet, so once we kind of leave the AST part of the job, so to speak, you know, the maintenance stuff, and once we come on duty for our 24-hour shift, along with a flight mechanic, that could be an AMT or AET, and then our pilot and co-pilot, that's a standard search and rescue crew. For a 60 or a 65 is just 4 people. Our air crew billet is the rescue swimmer. So we run the radios a bit on the 60s, so when we're talking the sector, or we could be talking to other agencies, you know, or the vessels, the pilots are kind of busy, you know, doing their thing. They got checklists and a million buttons up front, and obviously making sure the aircraft's being flown safely, and they're not putting you know, us in danger or anything. So we're kind of running the radios back there a bit. We also run the FLIR, the forward-looking infrared radar.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's the camera that you kind of see. So whenever people see videos on CNN or wherever, and you know, it's like the little screen of the rescue swimmer going down or what's going on. We're kind of running that, looking for searches and whatnot. And then obviously we're all talking as a crew if we do get a case of what's going on. So the one thing we practice is called crew resource management. So whether we're flying with, say, the CEO of the air station, you know, who's in 06, they could be flying for 15, 20 plus years, and maybe you have a brand new AST3 rescue swimmer, just graduated A school, has been in, could be 19 years old, you know, been in for, you know, less than 2 years. You know, everyone's opinion, everyone's voice kind of matters in the cockpit. You know, we all need to make sure we're on the same page as far as what's going on with the mission. You know, what's fuel look like, what's the weather look like, what is our rescue plan, what device are we going to use. So we're kind of having that big conversation together. And then once we decide to deploy the rescue swimmer, or the pilot in command says, okay, that sounds like a good plan, you know, we're not putting the air crew at risk, we're not putting ourselves at risk and the helo, and this seems like a good plan, you know, we kind of go out the door and we operate solely. So it's just us. So obviously we work all together as a crew, but then once we get out the helicopter, whether it's, you know, free falling out or lowering down on the rescue hook, either to the boat or to the water, it's just us. So we're kind of got to figure out, you know, what to do, and you know, all of a sudden the plan that we came up with, that might be shot all of a sudden, you know, like the medevac patient that we were rescuing got a call from a broken leg, and then all of a sudden we get there and they got a punctured lung or something, or you know, we thought we could put them in the rescue basket, quick and easy. It's just, and all of a sudden now they're non-ambulatory, they're not able to speak and they can't walk. Now we need the rescue litter, so we got to package them up that way.
Well, speaking of equipment, we've actually got one of the baskets, which everybody probably recognizes. Let's talk about that a little bit. Cool. All right, William. So this is the basket that probably everybody knows about because it's seen so many times in rescues and that kind of thing. Is there anything special about these guys?
So this is just not so much. It's pretty basic. Just made of steel tubing. It's got some floats on here, so it can actually float in the water. But it's our rescue basket. It's our primary rescue device. We can fit up to 600 pounds in there.
Wow.
So we could fit a mother and a father and maybe a kid or two or something. I myself have gone up with a kid in this. I've gone up with over 100-pound people in it with me. And there's pros and cons to it.
It's a tight fit.
So it could be a little tight fit, yeah. But if we're at a bit of a time constraint, then packing multiple survivors eliminates doing multiple hoists. So, but as I said, if we want to go even quicker than that, if we have one survivor, then we'll probably just use another rescue device where we can go up with the survivor as opposed to sending this up, has to come back down and then get us out of the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this doesn't look like much, but it's kind of got a really cool story because this was actually used yesterday to rescue some survivors from a sinking small boat. And you guys just kind of kicked this dewatering pump right outside the helicopter.
Yeah, so this is our dewatering pump that we use on our 60s, our 65s, our fixed wing all-carrium. It's one of the survival items that we maintain as ASTs. It's just a little 4 horsepower dewatering pump. Weighs 104 pounds. It has a big orange case that it goes in, which we can, as you said, we can kick it out the door, pull it onto a boat. If feasible, the rescue swimmer can be on the vessel, and then it can be lowered down to that via trail line. Once we get this open, there's a dewatering hose that will funnel down into the area that's taking on water. We got a discharge hose that will funnel out onto the deck or overboard. And once we get this things going, it can last up to 4 to 5 hours. We can bring spare gas with us at around 140 gallons to 170 a minute. So it can usually dewaters faster than what we need to. So we have to kind of cut it off, turn it back on, and they're a great source if obviously we're trying to dewater a boat with multiple survivors. Obviously we want to try to keep them on that platform as opposed to having everybody in the water with us. But if it doesn't work, then kick this thing over. If the boat's going down, we can always get another pump, and try to get those people in the helo and
it's the lives that are
back
important.
home. Absolutely.
William, I always have to ask this question.
Yeah.
What's your hairiest mission?
Man, I've been a rescue swimmer for over 6 years now. This is my second duty standing air station. Each area kind of presents its own challenges in different cases. But one notable case I kind of had was actually back when I was stationed in Air Station, Atlantic City, New Jersey. And it was just after Hurricane Joaquin had kind of passed by. And it was still pretty nasty out in the water, good like 12 to 15 footers, kind of like confused seas, like the winds were coming from one way. It just looked like a washing machine out there.
Cool.
And we were due to take off on a normal training flight from Air Station Atlantic City, flying the coastline north up to New York. So we take off, we're just cruising along the coast, regular training flight, and we come across one of the inlets, Manasquan Inlet. And I happened to notice a jet ski out in the water. There was no vessels out in the water. This was like November time. And as I looked, I was like, noticed there was actually someone a few yards away from it trying to swim back on. The co-pilot had noticed and had said if anyone saw that, and I was like, yeah, I noticed a jet ski. He said, did you see anybody? And I go, yeah, there's an individual like a couple feet away trying to swim back onto it. So the pilot at the command, he busted a right-hand orbit to come back around, and I'm thinking, it's probably just some kids kind of toe-in surfing, just messing around. By the time we get back around in 30 seconds, they'll be back on the ski and probably be fine. So we come back around, we're in like a low hover around 50 feet just over the jetty. And as we come back around, the jet ski is already washed up on top of the rock jetty.
Whoa.
And this guy's just on his back, kind of like, easy stroking, like trying to keep himself from just being blown up onto these rocks. I mean, these rocks are almost car size that they make to make these jetties. So all of a sudden there was a case just like that in front of us, and we're going through our checklist, rescue checklist part 1, rescue checklist part 2, rescue device. The pilot had mentioned, hey, let's do a direct deployment where I stay on the hook, get strapped on. But I was like, we're really close to this jetty. I don't want to be down there any longer than I have to. Why don't we just do a physical grip? So it's where I literally just get next to the survivor. They put me 2 to 3 feet away. I hook my arms underneath, get a good gable grip. Give a little heads up since I can't give a thumbs up.
Yeah.
We're ready to pick up. And we wound up just doing that, hoisting us up, not to the helicopter, but just above the breaking waves, and kind of just air taxied over to the beach, put us down right on the beach, and then that was it.
No kidding.
So yeah, the spontaneous of that case, sometimes you just kind of never know, just kind of happened just like that. and some pretty gnarly waves out there. So it was pretty fun for me. Maybe not for the survivor, but he turned out to be okay. The ski, I don't know. That was probably a few grand he lost there, but at least he was all right. Yeah, at least he was all right. But that one was probably just one of my most unique kind of cases, kind of how it just popped up right away.
That's cool.
We weren't getting the alarm from base, going out. It was just flying along. The chances of us coming across just at that time were just, I don't know, pretty remarkable,
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Thank you for doing that, man.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, so we're here
It's
for
all
it.
work.
Yeah, just another day.
That's awesome.